Ahmedabad City Police Commissioner G.S. Malik has told Associated Press said that there appear to be no survivors from Air India plane crash. An Air India flight en route from Ahmedabad to London had crashed shortly after takeoff today. The Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner operating as flight AI-171 took off from Ahmedabad at 1:38 p.m. local time. The aircraft was powered by GE Aerospace's Gen X-1B engines. Just 5 minutes later, it went down in a residential area called Meghani Nagar. Thick smoke and dust could be seen for miles. On board were 242 people, including 230 adults, 2 infants, and 12 crew members. Of the passengers, there were 169 Indian nationals, 53 British nationals, 1 Canadian national, and 7 Portuguese nationals. The pilot in command has been identified as Sumit Sabharwal, with co-pilot Clive Kunder. The Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport has been shut down, and all flights were temporarily suspended. However, flight operations have now resumed at the airport, according to the Ministry of Civil Aviation, India. Safety protocols are being carried out following this crash. 3 NDRF teams comprising of 90 rescuers have been rushed in from Gandhinagar, with more teams en route from Vadodara. Directorate General of Civil Aviation officials who were already in Ahmedabad for another task are now investigating this incident. Multiple international reactions have poured in since the crash, with various heads of states expressing their condolences. Now we have this guest discussion on this topic. He's a retired Air Vice Marshal Kapil Kak, former senior official and of Indian Air Force. Thank you, Kapil Kak, for joining us today. Welcome to NewsX World. How swiftly and transparently is the Directorate General of Civil Aviation responding to this crisis, according to you?
No, I think 2 or 3 points are very, very crucial. One is that this is a deeply saddening and disappointing news for global aviation and Indian aviation in specific terms. There are large body aircraft, hundreds of which are flying in the world skies, crashes after takeoff in Ahmedabad, as you said, just 4.5 hours back. And the Directorate General of Civil Aviation has already issued, just a while back, a detailed statement on this particular accident. Very deeply saddening. And as you said, condolences are coming from all over the world, heads of state, heads of government. There is a wave of prayers for the safety of the passengers, which unfortunately have not fructified because as per the latest reports, there seem to be no survivors of the 242 people, including 10 operating crew and 2 operating crew and 10 cabin crew who are on board, including 2 babies. So I think, how will I respond to some of the specific queries if you have in mind? I leave the floor to you.
And Dr. Sir Kak, should Air India and the DGCA have foreseen any red flags before this flight, according to you?
According to my assessment of the situation, the Boeing 787 Dreamliner has had minor glitches after it joined the fleet. It's been flying now in the world skies for nearly 2 decades. And there have been no major glitches one has noticed. Sadly, a mammoth glitch has taken place in terms of the crash of this wide-bodied aircraft, unfortunately at the Ahmedabad airport in India. What could have been foreseen? Aviation is a very technical business. One doesn't do any soothsaying, nor does one do any speculation. Aircraft fly. If there are problems in the aircraft, whether technical or from the operating side, these are reported on ground as soon as the aircraft lands. Action is taken on these, and this is a routine not just for 787, but all civil commercial airliners all over the world. So it has come completely as a bolt from the sky, so to speak, because it has not been foreseen. A range of possibilities exist as to what could have happened. But for the sake of simplicity, for your viewers, I'd like to suggest 3 or 4 points for your consideration. One is the most critical point for an aircraft from a departure airfield to the arriving airfield or the destination airfield is the takeoff at the departure end and the landing at the arrival end. This was a problem of takeoff. As all the passengers get in, I'm simplifying it, as all passengers get in, doors are closed, the aircraft taxis, everything was normal. It lines up on the live runway takeoff point and does all the checks that are required and then seeks permission to take off, which the air traffic control has given this particular pilot. And he has rolled. There is a speed called the VR, velocity R, rotating. That means rotating speed. Now, what is it? This is a speed at which the aircraft has to take off, even if it has a problem, because it can sort out the problem in the air and land back. He has gone past the VR, rotation speed, aircraft has taken off, and as you said in your introductory remarks, within a couple of minutes, I don't think it was 5 minutes, or much less than that, he has just attained a height of reportedly 400 to 600 feet, which is low for a commercial aircraft. And at that stage, instead of sustaining a climb on full power, that's when the aircraft is on full power, the aircraft has leveled out, gone straight and started to lose height instead of sustaining a climb, which means there has been some problem at that, what I call the critical point. Instead of sustaining a climb, it has actually leveled out and started to descend straight. Now, there could be any number of reasons. I don't think this discussion or conversation with you, Asuma, is going to wisen your viewers, because possibilities are endless. If you insist, I can give those possibilities. But the fact is the air pilot has not been able to control the aircraft. It has gone straight into buildings of what you named as Meghani Nagar, which is virtually on the outer boundary of the Ahmedabad airport. And since it was going on a nearly 9-hour flight from Ahmedabad to Gatwick International in London, it was carrying full fuel. And when an aircraft is carrying full fuel and it crash lands out of control, a fire and a major explosion is inevitable. And that's what has happened in this case. There are sufficient number of videos from the buildings in Meghani Nagar, the residents of those buildings, which bring to light the fact that aircraft was high enough for the pilot to retract the undercarriage, because soon after takeoff, at a certain safety height, the undercarriage is retracted, and that facilitates the aircraft not to have any drag and sustain a climb to its cruising altitude, which is generally between 30 to about 40,000 feet, depending on the traffic en route and the segments of climb. So I think that is where the problem has arisen. It could be It could be both engines failing as a result of some problem with the fuel supply. It could be a control column failure, which means elevator jamming, which cannot be resolved by today's systems, what are called fly-by-wire flight control systems. And it could be any other reasons. It could be a fire. The engines could have flamed out because of a bird hit, a flock of birds hitting both engines. It could be a control failure. It could be sabotage. And that's why people are speculating there could be reasons to have the National Investigation Agency look into the matter. So at this stage, I would suggest very strongly that we get out of the speculations regime, concentrate on relief and rehabilitation to the extent it is possible, and move on to investigating, and most importantly, before investigating, getting hold of the cockpit voice recorder, which records the conversations between the two pilots when they were going through with this emergency. That is it's a system component which can survive a crash. Likewise, what is called a black box, which is the flight data recorder, which gives every single parameter of the aircraft from the time it took off till the time it crashed, in terms of speed, in terms of altitude, in terms of flight control status. Every single parameter is recorded and graphically reproducible when you milk the data from the flight data recorder. This will happen as the first readout. We perhaps, given the range of the widespread reach of the international media and their interest in this accident, we may begin to get that information within weeks. But a full-fledged inquiry, which should be ordered by the Directorate General of Civil Aviation under the Indian Aircraft Rules Act, that may take a year. If we hasten it, it may take months. But we will get, because this will be a development which the stakeholders, all of them, whether it's the passengers, whether it's the Pilots Association, the Engineers Association, the manufacturer of the engine, which is the General Electric, the manufacturer of the aircraft, the Boeing company, all of their reputations are individually and collectively at stake in the globalized information world which we are part of.
And Sarkar, should there be an independent investigation beyond the DGCA to investigate this crash, as there are international passengers from Portuguese, UK, also and Canada also involved in this accident?
There is an international agreement under the International Civil Aviation Organization by which the sovereign jurisdiction of the country in which the accident takes place applies to the investigation of an aircraft accident. Since this took place in Ahmedabad in India, it will be the Directorate General of Civil Aviation of India which will order an inquiry, and that inquiry, if required, may have members of some of the component manufacturers, maybe the aircraft manufacturer itself. That is not barred, but it is not compulsory, because there are international passengers that the countries whose passengers are on this aircraft must have a separate inquiry. They can do it, but as per law, that privilege rests with the country where the accident has taken place. I say this, Asuma, because there may have been pressures under globalization in the recent years, but the world is still globalized. There is no airline There's no aircraft flying as we talk just now, which is flying anywhere from Vancouver to Vladivostok and from Singapore to Sri Lanka, which doesn't have international passengers in it. So there'll be no end to the kind of investigations we will order on any aircraft or incident that takes place. So to that extent, I think we should leave it to the law as it exists currently.